wonder how consolidation has allowed the city of Nashville to leverage these kinds of assets that it has more effectively, and has it leveled the playing field between the city and the region? And what are some of the specific ways that consolidation has proceeded to do that, if it has?
Well, I think in terms of economic development, the way consolidation has helped Nashville is I think we can demonstrate that we are a more efficient, more effective form of government than probably any other governmental entity in the state of Tennessee. It has not really leveled the playing field in the sense that the attraction of a rural county or suburban county around Davidson County remains because it's easier to land is cheaper. There may be some sense that the schools are better, but what it does do for us is it gives us the area that I'm mayor of is 503 square miles, so it is a big area. And so when it doesn't solve all our regional problems, though, or all our regional issues, that 503 square miles was a lot bigger in 1963 than it is now. One of the things we've looked at a lot in the last few years is how we can expand the regional concept well beyond the borders of Davidson County to include the counties that are around us. And the main area in which we cooperate and work together is in the area of mass transit, where we're working to have a regional transit program. But we also work together somewhat on economic development. I think Nashville is more competitive in one sense that if a company is looking at expanding in Davidson County or moving to Davidson County, they're talking to just one government. You're not talking to different towns, you're not talking to different villages, you're not talking to the city and the county government, you're talking to one government. And we speak with one voice, which I think is an advantage. But there are counties around us that have multiple political jurisdictions within them that are doing very well, and it's not necessarily an impediment to them that they don't speak with one voice. But I'll give you an example. Williamson County is just south of Nashville. Williamson County is probably the richest county in the state of Tennessee. Our biggest employer in Nashville is healthcare management. We have about 250 companies in Middle Tennessee. Nashville is certainly the hub of that. Williamson County has seen over the last 20 years a lot of growth in that area. Williamson County has 4 or 5 chambers of commerce representing different towns and the county as a whole. That, I think, hurts them in terms of economic development. They don't have that one voice. We have one chamber of commerce that speaks for us. They do not have economic development officials in really any of the cities or towns in the county. There's only a county person, so there's a little bit of disharmony there. But they've been able to do well. I think for Nashville, though, what it has done for us, is to sum it up, would be it's allowed us to keep our taxes relatively low, having consolidation. It's allowed us to be more efficient. And it's allowed us that when we do speak about economic development, we're talking about a large geographic area. It's not a township of 12 miles. It is literally 500 square miles where we're able to represent that whole area and talk about it in terms of development. Have there been challenges along the way? Oh, sure. But I think, every major city in Tennessee, I hear less about Chattanooga and Hamilton County, but certainly Knox County and Knoxville and Shelby County and Memphis have all tried to consolidate. When you think about it, we're about 50 years old now, and it took us 12 years. Shelby County has been talking about it for about 50 years. And they're talking about it pretty seriously now because there's a real strong movement to consolidate the schools, and that's hitting a lot of roadblocks and a lot of problems there. But overall, we have been able to sort of position, and part of it is salesmanship. We talk about the consolidation and the unification as being something that is a real plus for us. And people genuinely believe it, and there's a genuine source of pride there about it. And that's part of our sales pitch when we're talking to companies about moving to Nashville. Thank you. And panelists, jump in if you have some additional comments as we're going along. Mayor Bell, your experience as a firefighter, paramedic, and state fire official kind of gives you a unique perspective on the political realm, on service provision, on governance. So there's kind of a continuum of consolidation, right? There are shared services all the way up to the kind of consolidation that Nashville's experienced.
From your perspective and your experience, how could we restructure or combine, do some shared services that would still allow, our first responders to be equally responsive, but it would be cost effective? And how do we talk about that at the local level?
Well, I think that the key way you have to do that is that you have to really take a gut check, a reality check on what are you supposed to provide and how does it need to be provided. The interesting thing when I was talking about the fire service portion that we merged earlier is that both fire services were paid fire services, so it wasn't a volunteer to pay, they were both paid. When we tried to merge those 10 individuals into our fire service, we had to go through a whole lot of stuff, okay, just to merge them. Now, the part that was interesting is that up until that point, the fire service on the other side, the smaller one, thought that we were going to get rid of those firefighters, but we really actually needed them. And so our firefighters were on the other side saying, well, you can't eliminate those guys. And so then when we said, no, we don't want to eliminate them, we want to bring them in. Oh, wait, hold up. Then they got to come in at a different level, and they got to be this. But yet some of those guys were, 20-year veterans that we were talking about. So we were actually gaining. So what it takes is that you really have to be pretty focused on the mission. And the shared services, right now, we did that. We actually are now into a countywide refuse operation that before inside our city was just a localized. By going to a countywide refuse system, which actually we privatized, it saved our city in excess of $6 million, something that we could have done before. And once again, it was about, is the customer going to be happy? Now our customers, our citizens, once again, are telling us, please don't raise our taxes, don't raise our fees. So we have to come up with creative ways to do that. Shared services, things that we can do together, actually leverages it so that we can actually make that savings so that we can keep the cost at a minimum for our taxpayers. And it's actually worked. That service there, once again, there was a whole lot of, oh, you can't do this, blah, 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 and I'd listen to it every day. And then all of a sudden we put it together because it's about action. And I think that that's one thing that misses that is lost in normal political environments. We talk about a lot of things. We just don't do any action on it. It's great to talk about it. Action is, I guess I'm fire service oriented. I see a fire, I'm not going to sit there and talk about it and go, well, it'd be nice to rescue that woman out of that third floor there. And we'll come back to that tomorrow. Okay? You can't do that. So you have to be action oriented. You have to be able to figure out exactly what you're going to do. So the idea of saying, okay, we're going to merge this refuse, this solid waste, and saying, okay, let's put it to action. My county commissioners were on board. We were on board. We're going to market this throughout our whole community, and it worked. And it worked so successfully that we haven't had really any complaints. We're into the process of another shared service of actually creating a regional recycling center that is now an extension of that. That regional recycling center not only will save us money because we're traveling now, we're currently sending our trash up to Ann Arbor and into the Michigan lines. We'll be able to do it right here in Toledo and being able to recycle this, and it also creates jobs. But because we're now talking to each other, instead of I got mine, you got yours, it makes it a little bit different. And for us inside the city of Toledo and Lucas County right now, what we constantly say politically is that the stars are well aligned. Now that alignment can go out in the next election, but for about the last 2 to 3 years, we've been pretty well aligned to be able to take the issues, realizing that we got to change if we're going to be successful in our region, and make it work for everybody. So the shared services are a key portion of our regionalization. The idea of being able to take our water, which is a key portion when we're dealing with Lake Erie and Northwest Ohio in itself, and being able to take those assets and figuring out how do we leverage that so that everybody gains from it, so that we create the appropriate economic development zones, similar to what Mayor Dean was talking about, that allows for people to speak with one voice, so that when you're recruiting, you don't have to go to 10 different people to try to get one thing done. You got one person that's responsible, you get it done. So there is an extreme value to doing that, but the problem that we have in government, though, is we talk about it, but we don't do it.